All right, let's dive right into this one. We're looking at a brand new AI model that tackles what has to be one of the most frustrating problems in AI video, and that's making conversations actually feel, real. It's called Dream ID Omni, and honestly, this could be the breakthrough we've all been waiting for.
I mean, you've seen them, right? Those AI videos where you have a few people talking, and there's just something off. Yeah, the lips might be synced, the voices sound human enough, but the whole thing just feels kind of disjointed and weird. It's almost like watching a badly dubbed movie. So what is actually going on under the hood?
And look, let's be super clear here. The progress we've seen in AI video generation is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, you look at models like Sora or VO or 2.6, they can whip up these stunning photorealistic scenes from just a bit of text. The quality, in general, it's definitely there.
But, and this is the huge catch, the second you try to put more than one person on screen and have them, actually talk to each other, that's when things start to get messy. For all its incredible power, the AI just gets confused.
And this problem actually has a name. It's called speaker confusion. And it is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The AI looks at person A's face, hears person B's voice, and just smashes them together. Or maybe it'll take the words that were meant for person A and put them in person B's mouth. Either way, the result is this chaotic mess that just completely shatters the illusion.
So yeah, let's unpack that a little more. Because the chaos in these AI conversations, it actually goes a bit deeper than just mixing up voices and faces. It really boils down to a couple of core issues. Okay, so first, the workflow itself is just all over the place. To get anything done, creators have to bounce between all these different tools. You need one to generate the scene, another one to edit it, and then a third one to animate everything. It's just a huge pain. And then the second big problem is that the AI itself is just bad at attribution. It has a really hard time connecting a specific face to a specific voice, that unique quality of a voice that researchers call timbre. And it doesn't stop there. It'll mix up who's saying what, or even give a piece of clothing described for one person to someone else entirely. And this is where Dream ID Omni comes into the picture. It was designed from the ground up to be the all-in-one solution. The whole idea is to solve both that messy workflow problem and the speaker confusion problem inside one single, elegant framework.
And just so you know, this isn't some weekend project someone threw together. This is a pretty serious collaboration between some heavy hitters. We're talking ByteDance and researchers from the very prestigious Tsinghua University. So how does it fix that whole workflow mess? Well, Dream ID Omni basically takes 3 essential jobs that used to need separate tools and packs them all into one. So now you can generate a whole new clip from scratch, you can edit an existing video by swapping people out, or you can animate a still photo and make it talk. All of it, all in one place.
Okay, that's the workflow fixed. But what about the big problem, the speaker confusion? Well, this is where the real magic happens. The researchers came up with this brilliant solution, and they call it dual-level disentanglement. And honestly, you can think of it as this model's superpower, because it is the key to making this whole thing work.
So this superpower, it kind of attacks the problem on 2 levels at the same time. First, you've got the signal level. Think of this as the raw data stuff. It basically creates this permanent, unbreakable link between a person's face and their voice. It's like a unique digital fingerprint. Then you've got the semantic level. This is all about meaning. It's where you give the AI a super clear, detailed script so there is zero confusion about who is supposed to be talking and what they're doing.
Let's dig into that a little. On that signal level, the secret sauce is this technique called syn rope. Now, the technical details get pretty deep, but the result is actually super simple to understand. It gives each person's face and voice their own unique frequency or their own channel inside the AI's attention space. This makes sure that the signals for person A never ever get crossed with the signals for person B. They're locked together.
Okay, and then there's the semantic level, which uses something called structured captions. And I gotta say, this part is just genius. Instead of just giving the AI some vague description of the scene, you give it something that works exactly like a screenplay for a movie. It's so smart.
Just look at how this works in practice. This example is straight from their paper. The prompt uses these little tags like sub1 and sub2 to label each person. Then it spells it out, crystal clear. Sub1 says this, then sub2 replies with this. There's just no way for the AI to get confused. It knows exactly who's supposed to be talking.
Okay, so the theory sounds amazing, right? A single tool with a 2-level superpower to kill speaker confusion. But does it actually work?
Well, the researchers put it to the test, pitting it against some of the other big models out there.
And yeah, the numbers here really do tell the whole story. Dream ID Omni is way better at keeping the identity and the voice consistent. But just look at that last row, speaker confusion. A score of 0.08 versus 0.38. That means it's almost 5 times better at not getting confused. That is a gigantic improvement.
This bar chart just drives the point home. It's showing the speaker confusion scores for a few different models, and just look at that tiny little bar for Dream ID Omni next to the others. That picture right there says everything you need to know. We're talking a massive leap forward in cracking this one super critical problem.
You know, the researchers themselves said it best. They noted that when they tried to generate a simple two-person scene, their model was the only one that could correctly bind the right face to the right voice every single time. The other models, they just kept running into that same old identity-voice mismatch problem.
And this is the proof, right? It shows that their whole dual-level strategy is what's making the difference. They found that just by using those screenplay-style captions, they slashed speaker confusion by over 3 times. Then you add in the other part, the SYN rope, to lock the voice and face together, and you've got a system that just works.
So what does this all mean for us out here in the real world? Well, solving this one very specific problem is actually a huge deal. It really does open up a whole new world for digital storytelling for any kind of creator. All right, so let's quickly recap the big takeaways here. What we have is a single, unified tool that finally cracks that annoying speaker confusion problem. It gives creators this incredibly detailed control over their digital actors, way more than they've ever had before. And this isn't just some interesting research paper, this is a huge step towards something people can actually use. Really, if you boil it all down to one sentence, it's this. We finally have one tool to generate, edit, and animate that actually understands who's talking.
Look, this tech gives creators and, eventually maybe the AI itself, the power to direct digital actors with insane precision. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about, doesn't it? When an AI can create and direct its own cast of characters flawlessly, what kinds of stories is it going to tell?
You know, this past year, AI video has just blown up, right? But listen, the real revolution, it's not just about making videos from text anymore. We are right on the edge of something much, much bigger. We're talking about moving from these simple little generators to full-blown all-in-one AI studios. And this new model, Skyreels V4, well, it might be the one leading the charge. Okay, but to really get where this is all going, we gotta start with a kind of weird question. Ready? What do the most advanced AI video generators, the ones we have right now, have in common with silent films from like 100 years ago? I know, it sounds crazy, but the answer to that question, it points to the single biggest problem holding AI video back today. And that's what we're gonna call AI's silent film problem. Because look, as amazing as these video models are, and they are amazing, they're all missing one crucial piece of the puzzle. The team behind Skyreels V4 actually put it perfectly in their paper. Think about it. Early movies were a total marvel, right? But they were incomplete. Something was missing. It wasn't until synchronized sound came along, the talkies, that movies really became this immersive, emotional thing that we all know and love. The point is, sight and sound have to work together. It's not one or the other. And that right there, that's the exact problem we have with AI video today. The way we do it now is completely fragmented. You use one tool to make the video, then you jump to another to generate the audio or the voiceover, maybe a third for sound effects, and then you have to stitch it all together yourself in an editor. And what happens? You get weird timing, and you know the worst one? Absolutely terrible lip sync. What we really want, the ideal situation, is one single platform, where one model just does everything, perfectly synced right from the get-go. And that brings us to the solution. So if today's AI video is stuck in its silent film era, then Skyreels V4 is the talkie that's about to arrive. It was built from the ground up to solve this exact problem. So what is Skyreels V4? Well, the fancy term is a unified multimodal video foundation model. Whoa, okay, let's break that down. Unified just means it's all in one. Multimodal means it gets more than just text. It can handle images, audio, you name it. But this last part, joint video audio generation, that's the killer feature. It means it makes the video and the audio at the exact same time, together as one thing. Basically, it's got like 3 superpowers. First up, joint generation. Video and sound are born together, so the sync is always perfect. Second, unified editing. So it doesn't just create stuff, it can edit it too. Change things, add stuff, remove things, all inside the same system. And third, multimodal input. Yeah, you can give it a text prompt, but you can also feed it images or other video clips or even just an audio file to tell it what you want. Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But how does it actually work? Let's pop the hood for a second and check out the secret sauce that makes all this possible. All right, now this is the official architecture diagram. And yeah, I know, it looks super complicated, but don't worry about all the boxes and arrows. We can actually boil this whole thing down to just a couple of really smart ideas. The first big idea is something they call a dual stream architecture. The best way to picture this is like a two-lane highway. You've got one lane just for handling the video, and the other lane is just for the audio. And they're running parallel, right next to each other the whole time. So you're probably thinking, okay, but if they're in separate lanes, how do they stay in sync? Aha! Well, that's where the magic is. It uses this thing called bidirectional cross-attention. All that really means is that the two lanes are constantly talking to each other. The video lane is always checking in on the audio lane, and the audio lane is checking in on the video lane at every single step of the process. It's this nonstop chatter that guarantees everything lines up perfectly. And the way it handles all these different jobs, creating, editing, whatever, is so clever. It basically treats everything like a fill-in-the-blanks puzzle. In the AI world, they call this in-painting. So if you want to make a video from scratch, it just fills in a totally blank canvas. Want to animate a photo? It just locks that photo in as the first frame and fills in all the motion after it. Need to just edit one little thing in a video? It just draws a little box around that spot and only redoes that part. It's just a really, really smart and efficient way to do it. Okay, so the tech sounds impressive, the theory makes sense, but the million-dollar question is, does it actually work? Like in the real world? Let's see how Skyreel's V4 actually stacks up against the biggest players out there right now. First place we'll look is the Artificial Analysis Leaderboard. This is a big public benchmark where real people just vote on which AI video they like better. And look at this. Sitting right there at number 2 in the world for video with audio is Skyreel's V4. And it's going toe-to-toe with the absolute best models from huge names like Kling, Google, and OpenAI. That ranking comes from its ELO score, 1090. Now, that's not just some random number. It's a direct measurement of how it does in head-to-head battles. A score that high tells you one simple thing. When you put a Skyreel's video next to a competitor's and ask a real person to pick the best one, they are picking Skyreel's. A lot. And it's not just public voting. The researchers also did these really detailed studies with professional reviewers. They asked them to rate the overall quality of the videos on a scale of 1 to 5. And guess what? Skyreel's V4 came out on top, getting the highest average score compared to all the other top models. But when you make them choose, just pick one, the results are even more dramatic. In these direct head-to-head matchups, the reviewers preferred the videos from Skyreel's V4 about 60% of the time. The competitors? They only won about 20% of the time. I mean, that's not just a win, that's a decisive victory. So what's the big picture here? What does all this mean? This isn't just about one AI model being a little bit better than another one. No, this points to something much bigger. A huge shift in how we're all going to create things digitally. You know, the paper's own conclusion really says it best. They state that, to their knowledge, this is the very first model that pulls it all off at once. It can understand all kinds of different inputs, it can generate video and audio together, and it's a full-on editing tool, all in one package, all at a cinematic level of quality. It's a true first. And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? The days of juggling 5 different AI tools just to make one little piece of content, those days are numbered. We are moving and moving fast toward a future where one single powerful AI studio can just handle the entire creative process from start to finish. And that leaves us with one last big, kind of provocative thought to chew on. As these tools get more and more powerful and more integrated like this, the whole idea of what it means to be creative is going to change. I mean, think about it. When one single tool can write the script, shoot the scenes, edit the footage, and compose the score for an entire film, all based on your idea, who's the filmmaker then?
So, we've all seen what AI can do, right? You can generate these absolutely stunning images, and it can create audio that sounds completely real. But the next massive leap, the next big frontier, is getting those two things to work together perfectly, to create a video where what you see and what you hear are totally 100% in sync. The big question is, can AI actually learn to dream in sync?
I mean, just take a look at this bear to get a sense of what's possible. An AI didn't just generate the video here from a text prompt. It also came up with the sound to go with it, that deep rumbling growl. Now this is the goal, to create seamless, synchronized video and audio, pretty much on demand.
All right, so here's our game plan. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the huge challenge AI is up against. We'll meet a brand new model called JavaSDIT++ that's trying to crack the code, and we'll see what this all could mean for the future of how we create, well, anything.
So, first things first, what's the big hurdle? Let's dive right into the core issue that has researchers scratching their heads, what they're calling the sync problem.
You know, AI is in this kind of funny spot. On one hand, these models are absolutely incredible at making high-quality, realistic video. And on the other hand, they're total wizards at generating lifelike audio. But that gap in the middle? That's the really tough part. Making a bird's wings flap in perfect time with the sound of those wings flapping, that is way, way harder than it sounds.
And look, this isn't just some tiny little bug. The researchers behind the paper we're looking at today point out a major gap. The open source models out there have been lagging behind the big-name commercial ones, especially when it comes to getting that timing just right. And that's a gap that really needed to be closed.
So, how in the world do you bridge a gap that wide? Well, allow me to introduce the new contender, which was designed from the ground up to do exactly that.
Everybody, meet JavaSDIT++. This is a new AI framework, and it was engineered for one very specific, very challenging task, generating audio and video together as one unified thing. Its whole reason for being is to solve that sync problem and seriously level up what open source tools can do.
So how's it going to pull this off? Well, JavaSDIT++ is really focused on 3 core missions. First, get higher quality video and audio. Second, nail the timing so it's absolutely perfect. And third, make sure the final result is something that we humans actually find, appealing.
Okay, now for the really juicy part, the secret sauce. Let's break down the 3 key innovations that make JavaSDIT++ tick, and I promise we'll keep it simple.
So the first big idea is called a modality-specific mixture of experts. I know, it's a mouthful, but just think of it like a team of super specialist chefs. You've got your video experts in their own kitchen and your audio experts in another. They each perfect their own things separately, but then they coordinate in a shared dining hall to bring it all together into one perfect dish. When you let the specialists do what they do best, you just get a better result for both the visuals and the sound.
Innovation number 2 is all about that timing problem. It's called temporal aligned rope. And the easiest way to think about it is like a digital clapboard you'd see on a movie set. For every single frame of video, it assigns a super precise, shared timestamp to both the visual part and the audio part, basically forcing them to stay locked together in perfect time.
But, it's not enough for a video to be technically perfect. It also has to feel right to us, the people watching. And that's where the third piece of the puzzle comes in: audio-video direct preference optimization. You can think of this as basically teaching the AI to have good taste. It uses what's essentially an AI focus group to watch a bunch of generated clips and then score them. This teaches the main model what we humans are most likely to prefer based on quality, timing, and just the overall vibe. So here's how that AI focus group actually works in 4 simple steps. First, the model generates a bunch of different clips from the same prompt. Step 2, those AI judges come in and score every single one of them. Step 3, a clear winner and loser are picked from the bunch. And finally, step 4, the model gets fine-tuned to make more clips that are like the winner. It's just this constant loop of getting better and better.
Okay, so those 3 ideas sound pretty amazing on paper, but the real question is, do they actually work? Let's get to the showdown and put JavaSDIT++ up against the competition. Now, this chart right here is where things get really, really interesting. We're looking at a score for audio-video sync, and the key thing to know is that here, a lower score is better. It means the sound and video are more tightly aligned. Now, just look at that bar on the far right, the one labeled Hours. JavaSDIT++ doesn't just squeak by the competition. It gets a way lower score, which proves that its new bag of tricks is working exactly like it's supposed to.
And hey, it's not just about boring charts and numbers. Just look at the sheer variety and quality here. On one side, you have the splash of a pigeon hitting the water. That's an action that lasts for just a split second. On the other side, you've got the sustained roar of a sports car flying down a track. The model handles both of these completely different scenarios with amazing realism and, most importantly, with perfectly timed sound. But of course, the ultimate test is always, what do people think?
In a blind, head-to-head competition against its main rival, people were asked a really simple question: which video is better? The result? Well, it was a landslide. An overwhelming 74.7% of the time, people chose the video made by Javis D++.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? Let's zoom out a bit and think about what this really means for the future of creation. So why is this such a huge deal? Well, for starters, it seriously narrows that gap between open-source tools and the closed, proprietary models from the big tech companies. That puts some seriously powerful tools into the hands of way more creators. And what's really wild is how it does this. It gets these state-of-the-art results with a pretty small data set, which proves that its unified design is just an incredibly efficient and effective way to solve a really, really hard problem.
You know, the creators of this model put it best themselves. They said they believe this work isn't just another small step forward, but a potential milestone for generating audio and video together, one that could kickstart totally new directions for research in this whole field.
All of this leaves us standing right on the edge of a pretty fascinating new era. I mean, if AI can solve a problem as tricky as audio-video sync this well today, it really makes you wonder, how long will it be until we can generate an entire feature film with perfect sight and sound from nothing more than a simple script?
So, we've got a real high-stakes showdown on our hands. One of the world's most advanced AI companies is going head-to-head with the US military. And let me tell you, this is way more than just a contract dispute. This is a battle for control over the future of AI and warfare, with some major ethical questions right at the heart of it.
And it all boils down to this one really big question. In a world where tech is so critical for national security, can a private company actually draw a line in the sand and just tell the Pentagon, no?
All right, so let's get into it. To really understand what's going on here, we got to look at who's involved, what's at stake, and, well, the principles that are making them butt heads.
Okay, so in one corner, you've got Anthropic. They're a major AI lab, really big on safety, and their CEO is Dario Amodei. And in the other corner, the Pentagon. You know, the US Department of Defense, the folks in charge of national security. So what are they fighting over? It's all about this AI called Claude. And here's the kicker. Claude is basically the only game in town right now. It's the one top-tier AI system that is, classified ready. That means it's built from the ground up for super-secret military stuff, which, as you can imagine, makes it a huge deal.
Okay, so how did we get here? How did this partnership turn into a standoff? Well, it really all comes down to what the Pentagon wants to do with this AI. And this is where things get really sticky.
The Pentagon's stance is pretty simple, actually. They're saying, hey, when it comes to national security, we need total control, unrestricted access. If it's legal, we should be able to do it. From their point of view, a private company just can't be the one calling the shots.
And this quote here from senior official Jeremy Lewin really sums it all up. He's basically saying, there's no way a private company gets to dictate the terms of use, the ethics, to the military. The government is in charge of defense. Period. End of story. But Anthropic isn't buying it. They have a completely different take. They're not saying no to everything, but they have drawn two very clear, very firm ethical lines in the sand.
And here they are, their two big red lines. Number one, no using Claude for mass surveillance on Americans. Absolutely not. And number two, no using it for fully autonomous weapons. Killer robots that make life or death decisions without a human giving the final okay.
And their CEO, Dario Amodei, lays out their reasoning. He's saying, look, we want to support the military's mission, we really do, but in these very specific cases, we think this kind of AI could actually hurt the democratic values we're all supposed to be defending. It's a huge statement about their company's core beliefs.
So yeah, as you can guess, this disagreement didn't just stay a friendly chat. It's blown up into a massive showdown. We're past the point of negotiation. Now the Pentagon is playing hardball, and they've got deadlines, threats, the whole shebang.
And things are getting tense. The Pentagon has put a ticking clock on this whole thing. They've set a deadline, Friday, 5:01 p.m., for Anthropic to get on board. For Amodei and his team, the pressure is seriously on.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, maybe even a little weird. The Pentagon has two big threats on the table, and, well, they kind of cancel each other out. Threat number one is to call Anthropic a supply chain risk. That's a label you'd usually slap on a foreign adversary. But then, threat number two is to use the Defense Production Act, which would mean declaring their AI essential to national security and forcing them to cooperate. See the problem?
Yeah, that contradiction was not lost on Dario Amodei. He called them on it directly.
He's basically saying, wait a minute, how can we be a security risk and also essential to national security at the exact same time? It's a pretty glaring inconsistency in their whole argument.
So this all leads to the million-dollar question. Who's going to blink first? With this deadline hanging over their heads, what's the fallout going to be? And what does it all mean for the future? You'd think Anthropic would be buckling under all this pressure, but their public stance is surprisingly firm. They've made it clear, if we can't agree on our terms, we're ready to walk. They even said they'd help the Pentagon switch to another provider just to make things smooth.
But look, walking away isn't what they want to do. Amode has said it himself. Their strong preference is to keep working with the Department of Defense, to keep serving the warfighters. But, and it's a big but, only if their two safeguards are respected. So the ball is really in the Pentagon's court now.
And that leaves us with the really big question here, the one that goes way beyond this one company and this one contract. When we're talking about AI this powerful, who gets to draw the ethical lines? Should it be the people who build it or the people who use it? The answer to that question could literally define the next chapter for technology. And if this showdown teaches us anything, it's that there are no easy answers.